Hi, we've now come to study 17 in this Revelation series. The subject today is the counterfeit bride. Let's begin with a Bible reading. If you have a Bible, turn to Revelation 14, verse 1 to 13. Then I looked, and behold, a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. They sang as it were a new song before the throne, before the four living creatures and the elders. And no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. These are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being firstfruits to God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no deceit, for they were without fault before the throne of God. And I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who has made the earth and the sea and springs of water. Another angel followed, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she's made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night to worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Then I heard a voice from heaven saying to me, Write, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labours and their works follow them. In our last study we saw that Satan, the great counterfeiter, tries to copy the Godhead, to copy the Trinity. And last time we looked and studied and saw the satanic triad, the dragon, or Satan, the beast, also known as the Antichrist, and the false prophets. And when we looked at them, we saw that this triad, they're created beings, they have a beginning, and they have an end, the lake of fire. They might be powerful, but they're not all powerful. They might give a sense of presence, but they're not all present. They're limited. But continuing the thought of counterfeit, just as Jesus has got a bride, and that bride is his church, and that bride is described in terms of a city, the New Jerusalem coming down from God out of heaven. We'll get to it in our studies, and it's a beautiful thing to study. Revelation chapter 21. So the beast also, the Antichrist, has a bride as well. He tries to copy Jesus. We saw last time he tried to copy the death of Jesus. He received a mortal wound and then recovered. He has a bride. And this false bride is described, it's mentioned here in Revelation 14 and verse 8. Another angel followed, saying, Babylon is fallen, the great city, that great city, because she's made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. In fact, that's just a brief mention. If you want to study it in more detail, we find that chapter 17 and chapter 18 of Revelation go into much more detail upon the nature of this false city, this counterfeit bride, the bride of the beast. And look at Revelation 17, verse 5. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. What a contrast to the bride of Christ. The New Jerusalem, pure and holy, where the Lamb is the light of the city. And this one, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. Revelation 18 tells us how corrupt this Babylon is, how it's demonically inspired, and how it's involved in all kinds of trade. Now, it's not surprising that that anything that's linked to Satan is involved in all kinds of illicit trade. In Ezekiel chapter 28, you may recall, it's a chapter that deals with the fall of Satan, and Ezekiel 28 and verse 16 says, You defiled your sanctuaries by the multitude of your iniquities, by the iniquity of your trading. Therefore brought fire from your midst, devoured you. So there's all this kind of greed and corruption and trade, illicit trade. It's all linked back right there to Lucifer himself. Look at Revelation 18 verse 2 and 3. He cried mightily with a loud voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, has become a dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hated bird. Wow. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the abundance of her luxury. Verse 11. And the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise any more. Merchandise of gold and silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen and purple, silk and scarlet, every kind of citron wood, every kind of object of ivory, every kind of object of the most precious wood, bronze, iron and marble, and cinnamon and incense, fragrant oil and frankincense, wine and oil, fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and chariots, and the bodies and souls of men. Wow, what a list. A whole world of trade is involved there. Clothing, perfumes, jewellery, transport, chariots and cars, whatever. And human slavery. Human slavery. It amazes me that we're living in the 21st century, and yet even in our own country there's still cases of human slavery and sex slavery and all that kind of stuff. Unbelievable. But it says it's going to be rampant in this system of the false Babylon. Now, amazingly, as we study chapter 17, chapter 18, all of this collapses in just 1 hour. I might think, wow, all the trade systems and economies and everything else is included there, all collapse in 1 hour? In the past, we might have found that difficult to believe. But actually, we've seen with the financial market crashes in recent years, can all happen very quickly. And even with the sudden lockdowns due to COVID pandemic, we see our economy suddenly become very brittle and could fall in a moment. So it's all very real. So why is this counterfeit bride called Babylon? Well, when we looked at the fall of Satan, we saw that The reason he fell is because he was proud. He wanted to be equal with God. If you want to restudy that, then read Ezekiel 28, verse 12 to 19. And read Isaiah 14, verse 11 to 15. But when he was thrown out of heaven, did that aspiration stop? Certainly not. He still wants to have that elevated position. One of the things he did in Genesis chapter 11 was to try to inspire the people of the earth to build a great tower, listen to this, that would reach up to the heavens. The inspiration and the motive behind that was that Satan, Lucifer, wanted to be alongside and equal with God. Now, they couldn't have built a tower that big, but the inspiration, the motive was there. And some of the biggest buildings in the world, the biggest building currently is right in the Middle East. And one wonders what was the inspiration behind that. Anyway, let's just take a look at Genesis chapter 11 and verse 1 to 9. Now the earth had one language and one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, "Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They had brick for stone, they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, "Come, let's build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let's make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, "Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. Now nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down." Oh God, one acting, three acting as one. "Come, let us go down, and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore its name is called Babel. And in the margin it'll say Babylon, because there the Lord confused the language of the earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. Babylon. And then, of course, Babylon, the city Babylon is built, and we associate that with King Nebuchadnezzar. And certainly that city became one of the wonders of the ancient world. The seven wonders of the ancient world. People talk about Babylon's gardens and all this kind of thing. And its king, Nebuchadnezzar, became very proud. He was humbled in a moment. Read about in Daniel in chapter 4 and verse 28. And all this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar at the end of the 12 months. He was walking about the royal palace of Babylon. And the king spoke, saying, "Is not this great Babylon I have built for a royal dwelling by my mighty power and for the honour of my majesty?" And while the word was still in the king's mouth, a voice fell from heaven, "King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken, the kingdom has departed from you. And they shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. And they shall make you eat the grass like oxen, and 7 times shall pass over you until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomever he chooses. That very hour the word was fulfilled concerning Nebuchadnezzar. He is driven from men, and ate grass like oxen. His body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hair had grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws." Wow. Nebuchadnezzar thought he was so amazing, so proud. He'd done it all, but notice in 1 hour, stripped from him. This is almost like a shadow, a type. It speaks of this false Babylon, this this counterfeit bride of the book of Revelation. In 1 hour, Babylon falls. So, back to Babylon, the book of Revelation, we find that her base of operations we find in Revelation 17 and verse 9. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. 7 mountains. If you're to examine and look, what European nation is built upon 7 mountains? What European city is built upon 7 mountains? And you find out it's Rome. And many commentators of the past feel that this false Babylon is a religious system. They often link it to the Roman Catholic Church. And certainly, back in the days of Caesar, when the church became a state religion, and you have the Caesars and the cardinals all dressed in purple robes and whatever. Speaking of the religious hierarchy and the emperors, wow, it was the toughest day for the church. In fact, it talks here about the martyrs and so on. In chapter 18 and verse 24, and in her was found the blood of the prophets and the saints, and of all who were slain on the earth. The church came under great persecution, the true church back then, and it certainly will happen again as this false Babylon arises in the days of the Revelation. But thank God we are raptured. Thank God that before the tribulation, the true church of Jesus is with her Lord. But for those who put their trust in the gospel, and the gospel will be preached during the tribulation, we said that, and we find it here in Revelation, back in Revelation 14. It begins by talking about the 144,000. It talks about verse 6, and I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel. Even in the dark hours of tribulation, the gospel will be preached. And there'll be those who put their trust. But they're warned to come out from this false political, religious, hedonistic, materialistic, demonic system. Revelation 18 and verse 4. I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, unless you receive of her plagues." Wow, what a challenge that will be. I wonder what price we're prepared to pay to share the gospel of Jesus. In these days leading up to the rapture, are we prepared to live a life that is holy and pure in an increasingly wicked and immoral and idolatrous, materialistic world? I trust that we will be bright shining lights for the King and his kingdom as part of his bride, his church, the true church, that one day will be described as the New Jerusalem coming down from God out of heaven. Amen.